Best film emulation plugin you'll find for Final Cut Pro. The creators of the plugin, Eric Lenz and Christian Markgrab, have put an insane amount of time into developing the color science, signal chain, and the workflow for Emulate, making the film emulation insanely realistic. I'll leave a link to it down below if you'd like to check it out, but let's have a step-by-step look at the workflow. With Emulate, there are two main workflows, and the one that you should use depends on your source footage. If all of your footage was shot on the same camera with the same color profile, then you can follow workflow number 1. If your footage was shot on different cameras, then you need to follow workflow number 2. Let's assume all of your footage was shot on the same camera, since for most people, that is probably the most common. So let's start with workflow number 1. First step is to hit Option A to add an adjustment clip, and I'll extend this to the duration of my edit. Next, I'll open up the effects window, and I'm going to look for this look development plugin, and I'm going to just drop that onto my adjustment clip. You'll see that applies the look to everything underneath. Now, the first thing we're going to do is head over to the inspector window here, and under the look designer, I'm going to select the camera that was used. Emulate comes with a bunch of LUTs, so I'll head over to the camera LUT section, and this was shot on a Sony in S-Log3 S-Gamma 3.Cine. And now that my camera is set, I'm going to set a look. So under look, we've also got a bunch of look LUTs, and I'll choose a neutral exposure. Let's just start with 16mm. So this is our starting point, if you will. But before we get into really defining this look, what we're going to do is add the grading and match effect to this first clip. And you'll see what that gives us is a bunch of different color controls for exposure and contrast, balance, saturation, skin, secondary adjustments, and then this emulate camera effect, which we'll ignore for this workflow. For now, I'm going to hide the effects browser, and I'm going to hit Command-C to copy the effects on that clip. And with all of these clips selected, I'll hit Command-Shift-V to paste these attributes. In a nutshell, what you're going to be doing is creating the look on the adjustment clip, and all of the effects we've just added will be used to do any color correction on these clips. So that's essentially where we'll start, is we'll start by making sure we have the right exposure and contrast for each clip. In this case, I might just bring the highlights down and boost the mids. And the idea is to go through each one of these clips and just adjust them as you see fit. For example, I'll go to exposure and contrast over here, and I'll boost the shadows and the midtones a little bit, and I'll bring the highlights down. If there are any other adjustments you want to make, things like color balance, you can. In this case, the shot looks a little cool. I might just warm it up slightly. For the sake of this tutorial, let's assume we've gone and done that for all of these clips. What I'll do next is select my adjustment clip, and I'll head back over to the effects so that we can start working on our look. I'll double click the top of the inspector window so I can expand all of these parameters, and I'm first going to switch off grain, halation, and bloom so that we can focus just on the look. I mean, this looks pretty great as is for a S-Log3 to Rec 709 conversion. As you can see, it looks like that. But let's go ahead and play around with the look. You can choose any one of your LUTs if you have other LUTs, but let's go with one of the other neutral exposure LUTs. How about Portra, since we're in Porto? And then I can work on the look for this entire...
想要吗？先截图，主页连结加赖恩或 TG， 私讯发你。